Morning, all. All right, so I want to start off today talking about trade rumors. We are in the midst of what is one of the more busy trade rumor parts of the year, although trade rumors are always out there all the time. The day after trade deadline, you'll hear, oh, well, this guy's going to get moved in the offseason, right? Like, it's just, it never really stops. And we've got 116 days until the next regular season begins, should it begin on October 11th, as is the plan. So we've got 10 players on the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Shannon can count. All right, and I'm going to talk about each one here. These are all players that we've heard in trade rumors recently, or we're going to hear. You guys want me to look at other players, you can let me know in the comment section below. And again, it's kind of crazy. So I'm going to talk about these players and whether or not I think they should get moved. Now, JT Miller's name isn't on the board because I already did a JT Miller specific video. I was going to do one on DeBrincat as well, but full transparency, I saw the Steve Dangle podcast had that same question of whether or not DeBrincat should be traded. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to do a specific video on DeBrincat, thus not doing the same thing that's already been done. And I want to talk about all of these players here. We will start with DeBrincat, though, because I want to talk about my favorite Blackhawk. He's 24 years of age, 82 games this year, 41 goals, 37 assists, 78 points. He is their best young forward. And his cap hit of $6.4 million until next year, plus he's a restricted free agent at the end of it. Yeah, GMs will salivate over that. The problem is Chicago should too. So I understand that Chicago is going into a rebuild, right? This is the discussion. But he's 24. So let's just say the rebuild takes 4 years. Then he's 28. And players are still in their prime at age 28 in most cases. And DeBrincat is a fast player, very talented. I have no doubt in my mind that he will be very productive, likely into his 30s, right? Barring injury or anything like that. So I am not in favor of Chicago trading DeBrincat. I know the rumors are out there. I know they keep swirling. But honestly, I think when you're looking to do a rebuild, you should be moving guys who are 28, 29, 30, who likely won't be there when the rebuild's done. And I think a young guy like DeBrincat, you keep him around. And so that's my personal opinion. You guys can let me know your thoughts if you're a Hawks fan and all that. Do you think they keep DeBrincat or do you think they move him? And then John Gibson. John Gibson's name's been in a lot of discussions lately as well. 28 years of age, coming off of a rough statistical season for him, 18, 26, and 11, 904 save percentage. $6.4 million is his cap hit until 2027. Now, over the next couple of years, the cap is probably going to move maybe $1 million each year. Maybe, right? And then it's going to jump, which means that when it jumps, Gibson's still going to be $6.4 million. There are definitely going to be a lot of teams calling Anaheim, and while John Gibson said he's happy, he said as recently as a couple days ago, he's happy to be in Anaheim and he's happy to play there. If the Ducks worked out a deal with, say, just St. Louis, right under there, sure, St. Louis. They work out a deal where he's going to St. Louis for whatever. I think he would listen because St. Louis, playoff team, Stanley Cup winner in 2019. There's a lot of good parts there. And he is almost guaranteed an appearance in the playoffs next year, which is, I think, something Gibson would be a fan of. So I don't have any reason to think he's not telling the truth about being happy there. I just think that he could be happier somewhere else. One of those things, yeah, I'm happy at this job, but boy, would I be happier at that other one. So, yeah, Gibson might be happy in Anaheim, but maybe a trade comes up, we'll see. And then with St. Louis, we'll talk about Vlad Tarasenko. Now, Tarasenko's been an enigma throughout this, right? In that injury problems, his cap hit was seen as being high. Seattle passed on him in order to draft Vince Dunn during the expansion draft. And Tarasenko is now 30 years of age, but he's coming off of a very good year. 75 games, 34 goals, 48 assists, 82 points. His $7.5 million cap hit expires next year. So what's interesting to me with Tarasenko is there's been this discussion about whether or not he wants out of St. Louis. But if St. Louis were to, say, get off to a slow start and things aren't looking all that great, would Tarasenko just naturally end up on the trade block at the deadline next year? Because then he would be a rental for whoever be picking him up. I'll be interested to see what happens there and whether or not Tarasenko can follow up what was a very successful season with another. And again, it's about staying as injury-free as possible if you're Tarasenko too, right? So a lot of uncertainty with Tarasenko, but he had a very good year. There was no lack of effort from him. Mark Scheifele. So the Jets have said they're not trading Scheifele. Scheifele hasn't made any specific trade request. But there's a lot of discussion about what needs to be done with Winnipeg. Winnipeg's a team that absolutely underachieved this year. And so Scheifele's name's out there. Now I'm going to surprise some people. If the Jets moved Scheifele, this might be a good time to do it. I'll say why. He's 29 years of age. So he's getting, upper 20s, getting towards 30. You know that some players produce just as well in their 30s. Usually they will drop off at least somewhat, right? Now, 67 games played this year, 29 goals, 41 assists, 70 points. He has a $6.125 million cap hit until 2024. That makes him highly attractive on a trade market. So whether Kevin Cheveldayoff intends to trade him or not, that cap hit, his age, it's going to make it tempting for them to at least test I would think at least test the market. I mean, just GMs talking, just chatting, just say if this guy was available, that kind of thing, right? So for Scheifele, I don't think he gets dealt, but again, he is 29. This is a team that underachieved. They might be trying to change that culture, whether it's the locker room, whether you believe any of the rumors or you don't. And so maybe Scheifele ends up being the odd man out, right? We'll see what happens there. Jacob Chychrun, whose name dropped out of all the trade rumors when he was hurt, right? And so the biggest question mark with Chychrun is he healthy? And so any team that would look to acquire Jacob Chychrun would ask that question. Now, one thing I have with this is that he's only 24, and it's similar to the DeBrincat argument. Chychrun, they don't need to move him. 47 games this year, 7 goals, 14 assists, 21 points. His cap hit is $4.6 million till 2025. That is a very good cap hit, and there's still 3 more years left in that contract. I still find it surprising that he apparently has been on the market. I don't blame them for asking for the moon for this guy. Chychrun had a rough year this year by his own standard. The year before was excellent. He needs to get back to that form. It might be a situation where for Arizona, they're better off to go through training camp, make sure he's healthy, get him out there, get him through, say, the first 10 games of the regular season, make sure he's being productive and getting the best chance to succeed, and then see what kind of trade market there is for him out there. So for Chychrun, again, one of my favorite players from Arizona. We'll see whether or not he's still a Coyote next year. William Nylander. Now, I only put Nylander up here because we're going to hear Toronto trade rumors because we just are. And Marner's contract, there might be some appetite somewhere in the organization to move Marner's contract because of the amount of cap hit. I don't think that's necessarily an issue, but I also will say that with Kyle Dubas being so steadfast about keeping the core together, Nylander probably stays in Toronto at least this upcoming season as well. He's 26 years of age, so no concern about age there. 82 games played, 34 goals, 46 assists, 80 points. Nylander had a very good year. And honestly, I thought he played well against Tampa for the most part as well. He has a $6.9 million cap hit until 2024. So the cap hit isn't bad, which is why I have him on the board. Because I think of that core 4, if Toronto decides they're going to change something, his contract is the easiest to move. The Tavares contract, I think, becomes harder to move every year. Tavares is getting a year older every year. That's just how calendars work. And I think that cap hit would scare teams off. And obviously, they're not moving Matthews. And again, I don't think Marner's on the block. So while I don't think they're going to shop Nylander either, look for, as the summer goes on, a lot of rumors with Toronto. And I would think his name would get stuck in there. Now, again, I can't see him getting moved before the season starts next year. But in the event that Toronto sits down with the brain trust and goes, you know what? We do need to make a big change, his name will be the one that comes up. They just got Morgan Riley on an extension, and obviously there's the possibility the goaltending's completely revamped, but up front, he would be the obvious target. Brock Boeser in Vancouver. So one of my favorite players. Anybody who's been on this channel for longer than a month probably already knows that. Every time he scores a goal, I have to, run off and tell my wife. It got the little, basically, the Brock Lesnar, the way that Paul Heyman growls out Brock Lesnar. Yeah, I do that with Brock Boeser every time he scores. But you got to do the pose, too, or else it looks stupid. So, 25 years of age. He's a restricted free agent. Yes, it's a $7.5 million offer sheet, or not offer sheet, qualifying offer. I don't think he's going to get an offer sheet. 71 games played this year, 23 goals, 23 assists, 46 points. Now, I am a huge fan of Boeser, but are those totals a little bit lower than they should be? Probably. Boeser has all the tools. He is a very good goal scorer. But with Vancouver and where they're at right now, could I see them moving Boeser? Yeah, some of the discussions, you can see with Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvin, that there's a desire to change things in Vancouver and maybe in a major way. So while I've seen other names out there, obviously JT Miller, every now and then I'll see like a Bo Horvat rumor. But Boeser, I think there's more to it now than there was 2 years ago when we saw a lot of those rumors as well. It might be in the best interest of the Canucks. If they can improve their blue line in a Boeser trade, that might work. And I'm saying that as somebody who, I love Boeser. I've got 2 jerseys with his name on the back. I think he's fantastic. I would wish him the best wherever he goes. But it's possible that this is the summer that the rubber meets the road and maybe he ends up outside of Vancouver. Because again, if the rumors that there's an environment in Vancouver where they kind of take it easy and they're okay with losing, you have to hate losing, right? Shorzy tells us that. If Boeser is perceived as being a guy who takes it easy and, whatever the reason is, it's possible he ends up being the one that goes. Erik Karlsson. So his name has been out there. Elliot Friedman mentioned that there was the, possibility that he's out there. The one thing with Karlsson, there's actually a couple things with Karlsson. First off, he's 32 years of age, which is the oldest on this board. Also, the $11.5 million cap hit until 2027. It makes it hard to move that contract unless San Jose eats a lot of that contract, right? 50 games this year, 10 goals, 25 assists, 35 points. I thought Karlsson played better this year than he has the last couple of years, but it's still not at a level that you would look at that $11.5 million and say, that's a pretty fair deal. The $11.5 million for Karlsson, I honestly think that contract has kind of been a warning sign for other teams around the league. If you put that kind of money into one player, it can make it tough to round out the rest of your team, right? And it's definitely something worth looking at this summer is teams that have signed really, really big money contracts and seeing whether that success is there or not. And the other trick with that is it's not always the cap hit. Sometimes it's the amount of money they're getting up front, as in those big cash bonuses. Sometimes it might be a lower cap hit, but it's all cash on July 1st or whatever day the first day of the season is, which usually is July 1st. Of course, it's moved around, but you get that big bonus, and that makes a big difference. So for Karlsson, I think he stays in San Jose. He has been very supportive of the Sharks and their vision, but he has also been clear he doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. So there's that part of it too, right? Which comes back to Chicago as well. Moving back to the Chicago thing for a moment, if you move DeBrincat, does this mean that a guy like Kane or Taves might look at that and go, all right, if you're moving that guy for futures and he's the present and the future of the team, well, maybe it is our time, right? Because it can have that effect on the rest of the team. And not only that, but fan base. You've got to think about people buying tickets. Jake DeBrusk. So on the Boston side of things, DeBrusk, and there's always the possibility that Bruce Cassidy being fired, and once they bring in a new coach, that maybe DeBrusk rescinds his trade rumor. Maybe. Or trade request. But he's 25 years of age, 77 games, 25 goals, 17 assists, 42 points. And he did sign a 2-year extension. In part, it is believed that extension was signed so that Boston would have an easier time moving him. It's a $4 million cap hit until 2024. I don't know how much easier that makes it to move him. I don't know how many teams would look at DeBrusk and say, for that 25 goals, we think we can get that here. The $4 million cap hit's just fine. But we'll see this summer whether or not DeBrusk stays in Boston. As a Bruins fan, I'd be fine with him staying in Boston. I like Jake DeBrusk. Sometimes there's consistency issues, but you're going to have that with most players in the NHL. That's why everybody doesn't score 50 goals and end up a plus 82 at the end of the year. You're going to have consistency issues all over. But I'd be fine with Boston bringing back DeBrusk. We'll see what happens there, but I would expect his name to get attached to almost any rumor around the Boston Bruins this summer. And last but not least, at the bottom of the board, I've got, for the Rangers, Kaapo Kakko. Now, I will defend Kakko that he's only 21 years of age. I will also admit that his numbers aren't better than they were when he was a rookie. 43 games, 7 goals, 11 assists, 18 points. Now, he missed a lot of games. He did get hurt this year, and I think that affected his totals as well. Kakko might be one of those players that needs top 6 minutes in order to succeed, but he's not playing well enough to justify getting bumped up to a top 2 line. So Kakko, to me, seems like the kind of player that might end up in an Arizona, might end up in Buffalo, might end up somewhere that he's going to get that opportunity to maybe play more minutes than he will with the New York Rangers. The Rangers, a playoff team, finished in the final. They want to be a playoff team again next year, and if bringing in Kravtsov and trading Kakko means that makes them better, then that's what they'll do. So Kakko, I would not be surprised to see him get moved this summer. And again, I would look for him to end up with a team like in Arizona, where, yeah, he's a restricted free agent. They can sign him to a bridge deal, and he can go out there, and he might get 20 goals playing for an Arizona team that can put him in a top 6 role. Maybe he finds another team as well that's able to put him into a top 6 role. Look at Bunting when he gets to Toronto, right? Bunting goes from Arizona to Toronto. You would expect him to play less. Bunting was fantastic. So it's possible that with the right move, Kakko could end up being that offensive player that they'd expected. At the very least, the showing that he had on that kid line in the playoffs was impressive at points, and so that might generate some interest from a general manager as well, especially if they have players that they feel like would fit in well with Kakko's game. So there you go, 10 players. Just my look at who might go, who might not, that kind of thing, and whether or not I think they should. And again, there are definitely cases to be made for keeping players and trading players. Let me know which one of these players you think will be traded this summer and which ones shouldn't be traded. Which ones do you look at and go, no, do not trade that player. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.